Hello everybody, welcome to the Video Magazine. Try something a little new today. I told you that I work with handheld video cameras to do these interviews, and today I'm going to try something a little different. Got this GoPro Hero Black, using a tripod and using this handheld deal today. See if I can improve the quality of what we turn out for a product and actually see how these things work. I'm thinking about getting one. I borrowed this from a buddy, so let's see how it goes. I'm Dan Davis. This is American Vintage. Hello everybody, welcome to the Video Magazine. You are going to want to get your friends to watch this one. We got a lot to show you today, and I want to introduce you to a guy that you're going to think is pretty amazing by the time all is said and done. This is Tim Hennessey. How you doing, Tim?
How you doing?
And we are in Canandaigua, right?
Canandaigua, New York, yes.
Canandaigua, New York. And this is where we're going to start. 1964 Plymouth Savoy. And how long have you owned this car?
About 25 years.
25 years. Where'd you find it?
I got it from a friend of mine in a trade with another 64 Plymouth. The car originally came from St. Augustine, Florida, and it was owned by this really sweet little old lady. And she put all the character marks in the car when she owned it, and it's still original paint.
Still original paint?
It's original factory paint, yes.
Okay.
It's also got the original factory interior in it. I've just changed the driveline and basically made it a streetable hot rod version of the 64 A864 Superstock cars.
Okay.
They were aluminum nose cars with aluminum doors. This is all steel. This is a street car, but it has the flavor of a Superstock car.
Okay, well, let's take a moment and look around the whole car. You can show us all the bits and pieces and all the fancy features that aren't necessarily visible to the naked eye right now.
Be my pleasure. This is a 1964 Plymouth Savoy. It doesn't say Savoy on the car anywhere, but this was the base model Plymouth, and the only way they badged it was just Plymouth. It's also street legal, New York State, and it's an original paint two-door sedan. It was a 318 two-barrel car originally, and I changed the drivetrain, but it's original paint and original interior. And a couple of things that's really different with this car, being original interior, it's radio and heater delete. You can see the two plates on the dash, because it came from Florida, so there was really no need for a heater, and being a base model car, most of them were radio delete back then. The upholstery is original, and it's also a push button automatic. The park lever takes it in and out of park, and then it's reverse, neutral, drive, second and first to shift it. This is the last year of the push button cars, and even with the drivetrain I wanted to retain the push button transmission. It gives it a little more character. It kind of ties it in with the period, and it gives it the flavor of what these cars really were.
Okay, now what did you have to do to get the push button set up to work with a more modern transmission?
Well, it's actually a 64 transmission. You can't use the 65 and up transmission with a push button. So it's a special 64 push button case, but it's got the same internals as the modern ones. 65, they went with the column shift and two small cables to the transmission. This has got two cables, but they're long cables that activate the dash mounted shifter.
Okay, so take us around the rest of the car.
Okay, it's got original paint, like I said, and it's basically just a real good old car. The bumpers and all the taillights and the trim are original. I got a 64 New York license plate for it that talks about the World's Fair back in the day. And up in front, there's the drive chain. And I decided the 318 needed to go, and in place is a 426. This is a
426 Hemi, not the wedge.
right. It's a 426 Chrysler crate engine, brand new crate engine, and I installed it with a push button transmission. Changed the rear axle to a Dana 60. Disc brakes in the front. Heavier torsion bars for the heavier engine. Changed the radiator and so forth. And this is the way they looked if Chrysler was going to build a street version of the Superstock cars, which they didn't do. So this one gives me the best of both worlds. One little thing underneath the hood that's really kind of cool is this inspection stamp. And just to show the quality of the workmanship back in the day, it says paint okay. It doesn't say paint really good. Basically, if it had paint on it, it was good enough.
Something I can't help but notice standing here, the windows have sort of a bluish tint to them.
Yes.
Am I seeing that right?
That's another very unusual feature. Being a base level Savoy, the cheapest of the full-size Plymouths, it's very unusual to have the blue tinted glass all the way around. Most cars back then, if they had any tint at all, was a band across the windshield, and the rest of the windows were clear. But I think because this came from Florida, it had the blue tinted glass all the way around to keep the car cooler, even though it didn't have air conditioning. So it's kind of an unusual feature on especially a base model car.
So, does this car do a lot of work at shows, or?
I show it and I drive it a lot. This is my favorite go-to car to just jump in and go. It's easy to drive, it behaves itself well in traffic, it doesn't overheat, it gets reasonably good gas mileage, you know, if anything in a Hemi could be considered reasonable, and it's a lot of fun to drive. The beauty of it being original paint, I don't have to worry about it. It's got scratches and dents and dings, but it's part of the character of the car being 50-some years old now.
Well, what kind of things would you have to worry about at a show?
Well, people leaning against it, rock chips, stone nicks, tar, rain. Basically, this car, if it gets wet, somebody leans against it, so be it. It's not going to hurt it. But it still has original paint, which is kind of a cool factor, because once they're repainted, they're all the same. They're only original ones. And this car, I love it because it does have history on the outside, and it's not afraid to show it. To get started, you take it out of park. It's already in neutral, so you just press drive. And this is a full manual, or a standard automatic, where it'll shift itself. The full manual cars, like you'll see in a couple of my other cars, you have to manually shift from gear to gear, but this will shift like a normal automatic.
Looks like race day for somebody.
Yep. I don't know where he's coming from.
Does go down the road pretty smoothly.
Yeah, it's a good old car. I affectionately refer to it as the old man. I typically put about 2,000 miles a year on it during the summer. It's stored all winter, and I drive it every chance I get. And it's one of the most fun cars and most trouble-free cars I've ever had. And it's very much a car that people really enjoy, even next to the very beautifully restored $10,000 paint job type cars that you see at a lot of shows. People really are attracted to the fact that it is original paint, and I've changed the drivetrain, but people like to see cars the way they really were back in the day, and also cars that have retained as much of the original character of the car as possible, because once they're repainted and restored and been taken all completely apart and put back together again, they're no longer original. So people like to see something that's the way it was produced, because a lot of people remember these cars, or they remember their uncle owned one or whatever, and it brings back a lot of childhood memories and a lot of fond memories of not only the car but their life at the time they remember these cars from.
And I guess really that's part of the appeal of these cars when you stop and think about it.
Yes, it is. They're a slice of history, and they're part of the American experience with automobiles that probably will never be duplicated. You can also manually shift this, and every once in a while you have to clean it out a little bit. Just because it's good to exercise it.
Yeah. Smooth but fast.
It runs right along pretty good. It runs on 91 ethanol-free pump gas.
Okay.
And it's very docile, and it gets its regular service, you know, like you would any car that you drive a lot. But every once in a while, out in the middle of nowhere, you need to step on it just a little bit. I put disc brakes on the front and bigger rear brakes on the back on the Dana rear end, just to make it a little safer and a little more drivable in traffic with today's speeds, because old cars do not stop or handle like new cars do. And it's very important to maintain the safety aspect with an old car, even though it might not be 100% accurately restored. You give up the accuracy of the restoration for the safety factor of a car you're actually going to drive.
I like your way of thinking on that.
Thank you.